Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about one of Revolution Beauty's many latest releases. They have been coming at us lately and I can barely keep up. This particular one from Makeup Obsession had a lot of people excited and I was definitely one of them because they gave us 6 monochromatic 9-pan eyeshadow palettes. Monochromatic eyeshadow palettes have definitely been a thing that we've seen a lot of in the past year or even couple of years. The trend was kind of started by Huda Beauty with her Small Obsessions palettes, and then we saw Colourpop really jump on the trend. I think at one point they were releasing 1 palette a week. I mean, I think everyone at one point just had Colourpop fatigue because there were just so many palettes. Now when it comes to those two brands, Huda Beauty obviously is a more high-end brand. I think her palettes are £27 each. And then when it comes to Colourpop, there is the fact that it is not sold in the UK, which I think we're all waiting for at this point. So like me, I think a lot of people were really excited when this collection was announced because we had accessible monochromatic palettes in the UK and they were only £5 each. On top of that, Revolution had a 3 for 2 offer on. I tried a few products from that order in my latest video if you guys want to check it out. So I decided to go ahead and order 2 of the palettes. I went for the Keep It Fresh palette, which is the more minty one, which is the one we're going to talk about today. And then I also went for the Sunshine Makes Me Happy palette, which is the yellow one. So my order arrived and I opened it. And then I was a little bit surprised, I think is the right word. Here's what they look like. Now if this is your first time on my channel and you're thinking that these look particularly small, I would like to clarify that that isn't because I have gigantic hands. These are actually just tiny, very small, which I was really surprised to see. I expected them to be the same size as the Huda mini palettes or even the same size as one of the W7 Vivid palettes, for example, that I also have here. Let me take it out of the packaging because I think you can see it even more once it's out of the box. You can see it's even smaller than that. So at this point I was definitely a little bit confused and I was kind of torn between 2 different opinions. One of them being pretty disappointed, and then the other part of my brain was kind of going, it's only £5, is it really that bad? So the palettes do come, as always with Revolution, in a cardboard box, and this one has pretty much exactly the same information as the packaging does, so you don't really need to keep this, there's no extra information on here. Then we have cardboard packaging for these palettes. On the front we have the name, the brand, and then down here we have the weight, which is 0.38 grams per shadow. Now if you've ever watched one of my reviews before, you might be thinking to yourself, Aurora, are you sure you haven't misread that? 0.38 grams sounds really small. I mean, look, I'll check. I know I'm not wearing my glasses, but that definitely says 0.38 grams. And you are right, that is very small. And let me give you the inside of this palette. I opened these up and I did not expect the eyeshadows to be this small. The small pan size as well as the spacing in between the shadows makes me think of kids makeup. It reminds me of the makeup that was given to kids in the 90s that was very cheap and very chalky and just very poor quality. I haven't dipped into this palette yet, so I don't know if that's the case with it. So far in terms of first impressions, before having even tried the shadows, it wasn't going very well at all. So the next thing that I did after seeing all of that was, of course, to put these palettes into my spreadsheets, and I'm warning you guys, today it's gonna get particularly nerdy. The first thing that I did want to double check was just the weight compared to every other palette that I own, and this one not only has the smallest eyeshadows but is just the lightest palette that I own overall. Just going back to this one, for example, in comparison, we have 9 grams in total, so we have 1 gram per shadow, over double the product that we have in this one. Then I decided to look at the cost per gram of the palettes, and for these ones we are looking at £1.46 per gram. Now that may not sound hugely expensive when you hear that number, and looking at the spreadsheet we can see that I do own some much more expensive eyeshadows than that, but where it gets really interesting is when I compare it to all of my other Revolution Beauty eyeshadow palettes that I own. When you look at my palettes from Revolution, Revolution Pro, I Heart Revolution and Makeup Obsession, you can see that all the ones that I own actually all come in at under £1 per gram, and in fact fact, if you look at the average cost per grams for those, without including my 2 new Makeup Obsession palettes, it actually only averages out to 60p per gram. We are looking at something that is over double that. These are really, really small and they are in cardboard packaging. I can't imagine that they are that expensive for Revolution to produce. I don't understand why they are so much more expensive. Anyway, I'm going to move on from that for now. We'll come back to it at the end of the video because I know I've been chatting for a very long time already and I'm going to have to cut so much of that out. So let's just carry on quickly with the remaining details of the palette. So on the back we have the usual information. We have our diagram on the right hand side and then our ingredient lists, which are not easy to read. It's pretty small and without my glasses that kind of hurts. We do have one shade which has an asterisk next to it, which is shade number 2. So that does mean that that one is a pressed pigment and is therefore not considered eye safe. So we do have the symbol down here, which I don't think you guys can see at all. And then we can also see that the shelf life is 12 months after opening and that the palette is cruelty free and vegan. That is the case for both of them. So now going back to the inside of the palette, which of course you guys have already seen, we did have a plastic protective sheet on the inside, which I have removed. We do have the names printed on the inside of the palette, which for once I almost feel like I could do without. Do we really need them considering just how much space they take up in an already tiny palette? I think we might only have one matte shade, which might be Super Chill down here. Cool Down looks like it might have some shimmer in it, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll see in the swatches. But if we only have one matte shade out of 9, it's not great. We'll see. I'm gonna stop it with the opinions. Actually, no, I'm not, because we do have a mirror in the palette, and what is the point? Guys, this is such a small mirror. I would have rather gone without the mirror and cut down on the price. To me, that is useless. So many opinions already. I'm sorry, guys. I really, really am, but so let's now jump into the swatches. As I said, I haven't actually touched any of these shadows, so let's see. Maybe the shadows are really, really good and they're worth the price increase. Let's see. All right, well, the good thing about this palette is that we know it's not going to take very long to swatch at all, so there is that. I am kind of struggling to get my fingers in there. I don't have particularly big fingers or anything. If you have even slightly big hands and you're trying to swatch this palette, you might actually genuinely struggle. So let's get started. The first shade is Fresh AF. That's a metallic. I mean, it's pretty, but it's okay. Then we have our pressed pigment, which is mint-like. I don't know how to feel about that considering that's a pressed pigment. Then we have Sparkle Honey. Oh, okay, I really like that one. That really reminds me of the silver that's in the Eyes palette, the dupe for the Blue Blood palette. That's really nice, so I'm happy with that. It's a minty palette, so if the best shade in a minty palette is the silver, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that. Okay, so next up we have Bite Me. There's not that much difference between the first shade and the one that I just swatched. I kind of feel like they feel a bit repetitive and that one almost doesn't look as good as this one. Then we have Fresh Faced. Now that is pretty, and I do always moan that I don't really have a nice kind of sparkly metallic white. Again, is that something that I wanted in a minty palette? I don't know. And then we have Cool Down. It's definitely not the same metallic formula as the other ones, but I feel like it looks like it has a little bit of a sheen, so it's kind of in the middle. It might be like a satin or something. And then finally our last 3, so we have Original, then we have Spearmint, very crumbly, there we go, and then our matte, which is Super Chill. I mean, they're okay, but then swatches aren't always representative of how eyeshadows will perform on the eye anyway. I mean, the best swatch by far is the silver, that white as well, and that green in the middle, that is a bit more appley. So I don't know what to think about this yet. I think the best thing to do is just going to be to get it on the eyes. That is the quickest set of swatches I've ever done. Also the hardest because the pans were so small. Has that had an impact on the swatches? I mean, it could have done, but I don't know. So yeah, I think we're just going to jump into the look and see what happens. Alright guys, so I've just quickly gone ahead and primed my eyes with my P. Louise base so that we can jump into the palette. I do feel a little bit limited by the fact that we only have one real matte, so I kind of wish one of these 2 lighter shades were a matte. They kind of feel like they're the same but with slightly different undertones, but obviously I haven't used them on the eye yet, so I could be completely wrong. I'm going to start off with my first colour, which is going to be Super Chill down here. Picks up really, really well. It looks really, really pigmented actually, so that is probably the first positive thing I've said about this palette all video. I'm taking it on a Morphe M506 and packing it into my crease. I mean, the pigmentation is pretty good so far. I can't really complain about that. I will say as well, it is pretty powdery, so do just make sure that you are really tapping off that excess. It's a really nice colour. I do really, really like it. Packs on really, really well. Doesn't look patchy. Maybe this palette will redeem itself. I am going to go for something more winged out today, so I'm just bringing that a little bit further up, just because I'm only going to really use 2 shades for the crease. And then I'm going to bring this one outwards. And this brush, by the way, is definitely a lot better than the Sigma E36 that I normally use when I'm doing these types of dragged out looks. It does just pack on a lot better, just because it's a bit denser than the E36. You know what, I'm a little bit stumped. I've obviously had a lot of criticisms for the palette in the first place, but this is a nice shade. I will give it that. Okay, so for my next colour, I think I'm going to go into... I've dropped it. It's fine. They're pretty solid for tiny shadows. So next up, I'm just going to go into Cool Down on a Zoeva 231. Again, these are pretty powdery, but, and I'm saying this knowing fully well that I'm about to jinx it, I'm not noticing any fallout so far on my cheeks. So just make sure that you are properly tapping off that brush. Let's see what happens if I try to blend out with this one. It's a little bit bluer. I wish it had more of a colour difference, really. Do I want to do this? I'm just thinking. Change my mind. Let me wipe my brush. Let me try Fresh AF instead, which is obviously going to be very metallic, but we're just going to go with it. I just want more of a shade difference, and I felt like those two were very similar. Cool Down is just more blue. Oh, wow, God, they are pigmented. Let me focus on my blending instead of talking for just a second. The colour scheme in this one is so perfectly icy. I've just got Let It Go stuck in my head and it just won't go away. Okay, so that has worked. I would definitely prefer it if it was all matte. I don't really like having the shimmer up on the brow bone, but we're doing the best we can with what we have. The shades are really pretty and the pigmentation is good. The pigmentation is actually really good, which, and I never thought I would ever say these words, but it was almost a little bit too pigmented, and that's only because of the fact that I'm having to blend out my first shade with that metallic. It was kind of laying down too much colour when I wanted a bit of a softer blend, so that is definitely an interesting day today. We're trying new things. We're definitely trying new things. I still have no fallout though. I'm really confused. I'm gonna go back into a little bit of Super Chill, just to make sure it's not getting lost. I mean, it's not too bad because we only have 2 colours, so it doesn't really get lost in the same way as when you're blending out with 3, but it's just more the fact that I want to try and bring back the matteness, if that makes sense. I was a bit worried I would get stuck, but so far we're doing well. Next up, I'm just going to take a small flat shadow brush and I'm going to go into Fresh Faced, and I think I'm just going to finish off the brow bone. And then just back into the Zoeva 231 just to blend over that edge, but I haven't added any extra product. I'm pleasantly surprised. It's going pretty well so far. So I'm gonna go for a full cut crease today, so I'm just gonna go and do that quickly off camera and then I will be right back. All right, so I have now cut my crease, and as you can see, obviously because I look a little bit stupid right now, I have just popped on some shadow shields. I've just cut one in half just to give me a really nice sharp angle, which I always like to do with a full cut crease. I just feel like I do a better job with it. So we're kind of spoiled for choice. Let me start again. We're kind of spoiled for choice with this palette for the lid shades. So what am I gonna do first? I think I'm gonna start off with Spearmint down here. Very powdery, this one, very, very powdery. I'm taking that on a Morphe M124 and popping that on the inner third of the cut crease. That's not bad actually. I mean, this one is definitely also the most powdery one of all of them, which is weird considering it's definitely not a pressed pigment. You always expect the pressed pigment to be the powdery one, but no. That's quite pretty. It's not super metallic, but it looks nice. It contrasts really well with the crease colours. So we'll just see how everything looks together, really. That's actually a really, really nice brush for packing on my shimmer. So I think I'm just going to carry on using it. I've just given it a white. And next up, I'm going to try Original. Might have to spray this one. I'm going to try spraying this one. I just really felt like I was having to dig into that one, especially after using Spearmint, which was just so easy to use. We're good for fallout so far, but because of how much I'm having to dig into this one, I could see it causing a lot of fallout. God, I really am having to dig, like properly really dig my brush in. Yeah, that was really difficult to work with. I didn't enjoy that one as much. I'm just going back in with a little bit of Spearmint over the edge of the two. I'm gonna try and blend them in together, and then back in with a little bit more of Original. I've basically got each shade on a different side of the brush. That's a trick that I learned from YouTube years and years ago when I was first watching videos. It's literally just one of the easiest ways that you can blend two shadows in together, because you're just literally flipping your brush over. Okay, they blended in together pretty easily, but as I said, I wasn't too happy with how much digging I had to do into the shade Original. So we'll go for my last shade now. Right, I've just got another flat brush. I'm gonna go into Mint Like, so that's the pressed pigment. Picks up pretty well. I think this is gonna be a good one, hopefully. I think it has like a bit of a duochrome to it, maybe? Not like a really strong one or anything. As you turn, it takes on a slightly different color. I don't feel the need to spray the brush with it, but it might make it a little bit easier if you did. I feel like all the shades I've used up until this one are giving me like mint vibes, and then this one is more like mermaid. I'm talking rubbish today, aren't I? And then I'm gonna go back into Original, and again, I'm just gonna go over where the two colors join, just to blend them in together. And then again, a little bit more of Mint Like, just back and forth in between the two. I mean, I will say I definitely have no issues with the shades in terms of blending. They do blend really, really well together. Because everything is so close in colour, it does need a little bit of embellishing. So I'm just going to go and add some winged liner, and I'm going to have a think about what we can do to embellish it a little bit before we do the lower lash line. Alright, so my liner's on. I will have the product that I used listed down below, and I've also just removed the shadow shields, and as soon as I took them off, it took all of my makeup off. So I had to redo that a little bit. I have a few different options, and I can't decide what I want to use. I have some Collections Glam crystals here, and do I want to go blue or do I want to stay turquoise? Might pop this one on the center of the eye. This is Le Freak. Let's see what that does. May as well. It's a little bit darker than what I would have wanted. I'm going to take my Morphe M456. I'm just going to kind of come in, blend the edges out. Okay, so that's just made the centre of the eye a little bit more sparkly, although colour-wise it looks more like the matte shade than it did what I had in the middle, but that's fine, we're gonna go with it. And then I do have some new products and I'm really, really excited about these. I got a bunch of the Sheen Cosmetics Epic liners. So these are cake liners like the Super Beauty ones, although they are very, very small compared to them. But I bought a bunch of them because I saw Make Me Up Missa mention them, and she said that they were really good compared to other ones that she tried, that they didn't crack on her. And I tried 2 of them last night and I was really, really impressed. So I'm just gonna get some water. And then I'm gonna take a Pro Arte Master Stroke. This is a series 60 in 00. And we're just gonna go all minty. I apologise in advance if you don't see most of this because I do have to get pretty close to the mirror to do it, but I am gonna try. I mean, the formula on these is lovely. They are really, really nice to use. I think I wanted something that contrasted a little bit more, but you know what, I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, formula-wise, I don't know what it is about these ones. I do find them really, really easy to use, and they do have minimal cracking, so I'm gonna keep trying them. This is now the 3rd colour that I've tried. So far, it's good. Anyway, let's finish off this eye. Let's do the lower lash line. So I think I'm gonna go back into Super Chill. I'm gonna really, really tap off the excess. I did notice, by the way, after removing my shadow shield, that I do have a little bit of fallout the front, but it's very minimal compared to other Revolution palettes that I have tried. So yeah, Super Chill, it's on a Morphe M508, and I am going to pack that on. that is packing on really, really well. Considering that's not on P. Louise base, I'm pretty happy with that. I might take a little bit of Fresh AF just on a Morphe M512 just to blend it out a little bit. Make sure we have a nice smooth edge. Then on my inner corner, I'm going to take a Nancy tapered crease brush and I'm going to go into Fresh Faced. Oh, that is pretty. I will say that. And then on my waterline, I'm just going to pop on some P. Louise base in a hint of mint. Actually, I'm going to mix it in with a little bit of touch of frost. I think if I mix them in together, just a little bit, we should get a shade that resembles what we've got on the eyes. Alright, that's pretty much done for the eyes, so I'm just going to go and finish everything else off camera and then I'll be right back to give you my final thoughts on the palette. Alright guys, here is the finished look. I've added a couple of gems and I have lipstick all over my teeth. And I've gone overboard with the lipstick, apparently. Anyway, where is it? Oh, let's talk about this palette. Today has certainly been a roller coaster of emotions. I feel like my opinion started off somewhere and has ended up somewhere else, kind of, but not really. I love how the eye look turned out. It's really, really pretty. I was really impressed by the quality of the eyeshadows. They were pigmented, they blended in really, really, really easily. So there was no complaint with that. That doesn't mean I have no complaints though, because this is me and I'm a really moany person. So let's get into what I didn't like as much, unfortunately. First of all, the fact that there's only one matte shade. I mean, I kind of got around it, but I would rather there was maybe at least another one, like a much lighter one. The biggest issue for me still remains the price. I know that I was really negative about that in the beginning, and despite how happy I am with the look, that just hasn't changed, unfortunately. The eyeshadows are good, but I don't feel like this is an amazing formula for Revolution that really, really warrants that price increase. I feel like this one just isn't really worth £5, and especially at a time where not everyone is going into shops, and even when you do go into shops, if these are now available on Boots, you wouldn't have any testers in stores if you did go, so you wouldn't be able to open it up and see actually how small the eyeshadows are, and you can't really tell what size things are online. I find it really, really cheeky to make something this small and make it £5. To me, I think this should be £3. I feel like that would be a better price just considering how little eyeshadow you get. The packaging doesn't warrant that price, the formula doesn't warrant that price. I just want to know, like, why so much more expensive than everything else? So do I recommend this palette? It's a tough one. I like the colour scheme. I like some extra mint shades in my collection, but they're mostly shimmers. I'm currently wondering how many shades in here I have in other Revolution palettes, particularly my Forever Flawless Ice and my colour book. Number 5. I do already have a video comparing both of those, so again, it's up in the cards if you want to check it out. But if you guys want to see a swatch video just comparing this one to the other two, let me know in the comments. Anyway, what I was saying was, do I recommend this palette? I'm gonna go with yes, because I like the quality, but not at full price. I would definitely consider getting these if there is some sort of sale on, like some money off, or a 3 for 2. Especially if you did want to get all 6 of them, you'll be paying £30 for not a lot of product. In fact, let me calculate. So if you wanted to get all 6 palettes right now and you got them at full price, so you paid £30 to get all 6 of them, you would be getting 20.52 grams. By comparison, the Forever Flawless palettes contain 19.8 and they all cost £12. So if you were to buy all 6 of them at full price, you really wouldn't be getting your money's worth. And to be honest, even if you're buying this one at full price, you're just getting so little product. It's really disappointing. I think these should be £3. I know £5 isn't a lot of money, but this is just way more than Revolution's other palettes, and yeah, I'm a little bit annoyed at that, a little bit disappointed because I do really, really like this look. My opinion on it right now is, unless you're getting it in a sale, I do not think it's worth it full price, and especially if you want to pick up more than one of them, it's just a lot of money for teeny tiny pans. Anyway, that is enough negativity from me for the rest of the day. As I said, you know, it's not completely negative. I do really, really like this look, and I hope you guys do too. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought of it, and of course subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on my next video, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye guys!